I'm Travis Murray with the Pinball Company, and in today's video, we're going to be going over another John Wick launch party strategy. All right, before we get started, this video does assume that you know the baseline rules to this game. Now, for this particular strategy, I have a general roadmap to go through, and this is one strategy that I used specifically whenever I played in a launch party recently as last week, and it worked out pretty well for me. Now, again, there's several different ways you can attack this machine, and there's several different strategies that I alluded to in my previous video. However, this particular strategy I've kind of landed on as probably my primary to-go strategy as of the current code. It's important to understand the framework of this strategy. Now, ultimately, you always want a short plunge, mainly because that will take you into the VUC on the right-hand side. That'll deliver the ball back to your right flipper, and you should have enough time for the ball save to start hitting your blood oath targets to the left-hand side. You hit that a few times, I think it's 4 total, and that will light your outlane ball saves. These are very crucial to give you coverage, so that way if you make a mistake or you drain out the outlane, just make sure you use your flippers to have that outlane lit, and then the ball will be saved. Now, previously, I think that the ball save was set on 5 seconds. The newest code update does up it to 8 seconds. So there's really no reason not to go after this ball save or qualifying the ball save. And oftentimes too, especially on the premium, because of where the crate's at, you will find that you can rebound or ricochet the ball off the blood oath targets into the crate. So that's really John Wick in a nutshell. And outside of that, we are aiming to start Ruska Roma as fast as possible, which is associated with the center ramp. So that's the faction we're going to use. The specific job is called Assassination. And the reason why this is so important is because typically what happens is there's all kinds of enemies that goes out into the playfield immediately, and we want those enemies to be there. The reason for this is not only will we make progress in terms of increasing the value to our job or the point value to it, but we'll also make progress towards our adversary. And you have to get to 16 enemies in order to qualify that at the left scoop or the administration shot. So that's why I found that Ruska Roma tends to be the best mode to take early on, unless you just happen to want to ride ramps nonstop. Then of course it's the Marquis de Gramont, which is the mode or the faction to the right-hand side, which is on the right orbit. Outside of that, you can kind of go either way. It just depends if you want to take an adversary early on, and you could just as easily take Ruska Roma as your second mode. However, I have found that taking it as my very first mode tends to set me on the right path, and I can always use the Marquis de Gramont as my secondary job to take. So with that being said, let's get to the gameplay. All right, and the ball is off. And so, of course, like I talked about a second ago, you always want a short plunge here, and you'll see the ball save come on. I didn't get my skill shot, but that's okay, because now I'm just taking dead aim for that left side. Now, this is on previous code, so the ball save went out very quick, but the newest update, pretty much everything else is the same, except you do have 8 seconds now, I believe, for that ball save. And then we see me take a lock right there. That's just the Winston lock or the Continental. If I see that available, I go ahead and take that as soon as possible, just to kind of get things going the right direction, get my progress going. And plus I make sure too that I am set up for the correct job that I want, which is the Ruska Roma faction. So we're going to go directly into this. What you're going to see immediately is that all the shots out there are lit yellow, but look how many enemies are out there. All those blue flashing lights out there are enemies. So I'm just looking at taking shots in which I know I can return a ball back to my flipper. That's my main goal early on. And then if I hit a shot and it stays lit yellow with no enemy there, that means that is my target. And that's where there's a lot of point value that comes into play. And you're going to see that come up here in just a few. Now, of course, as soon as I have a ball lock available at the center ramp, I go ahead and take that. Ideally, I don't want to bring in a multi-ball personally into this until I'm towards the end of the mode. That's just the way I like to approach it. I try to play this single ball for as long as I can. You're going to see right here, it's a lot of surviving. And right there, I'm opening up the crate because once I get it back into that VUC, that's going to add 30 seconds to the job. And then we see it happen right there. Another part is too, I just got to 12 enemies, which automatically lights my extra ball on the left-hand side at that scoop. And I think that's worth approximately 10 million points. So again, very important. You start to see points pile up. You're making enemy progress. You get to your extra ball, which is more points. And just like you see, we're nearly at 20 enemies already in relatively little time. So we have an adversary that's already lit. We're already past 50 million points. And honestly, guys, unless you want to ride ramps, which I do sometimes still want to do, you can't go wrong either way, but I would probably have to lean heavily towards Ruska Roma being your main S tier mode to take. So we go ahead and go into ball 3 right there. We're going to get a multi-ball going. But the reason why I would consider it just the S tier and quite possibly the best mode in the game, because you do get progress towards your extra ball. You do get progress towards an adversary. So for competition wise, that's very important because that's points, right? That's 10 extra points right there, or 10 million extra points there once you get to the extra ball. And then plus get into an adversary. If you play it right, it can be worth pretty significant points. Now, funny enough, I personally struggle mightily with the adversaries. For whatever reason, I don't do great in them ever, it seems like, but there's sometimes I run into something. That's why I prefer to use Kirill or even Zero if I was picking. I don't think I even get a chance to play either one in this particular gameplay though. So anyhow, this whole time we're back in Deconsecrated Multiball. We just added a ball right there. And of course, if you don't know what this multi-ball is, it's just the Continental on the right side, spelling Winston. Go up the middle 3 times and you get your locks. And from here, you're essentially just hitting green insert and that will light a letter at the captive ball. You hit that to get your jackpot. Then eventually you spell out Winston and your super jackpot will light on the middle ramp. So that's essentially how this works. And your add a ball, of course, is the 3 stand-up targets, 2 of them located on the left ramp, 1 at the right ramp. Okay, our super jackpot's lit. We're going to take that. And this is kind of what you can do in this mode right here, or in this particular multi-ball. You can kind of play the Congo strategy to where if you're capable of micro flipping, it's available there. To where you take safe shots, balls that return back to your flipper, and just micro flip. And just go back and forth. Try to stay under control right there. And ideally right now, I'm collecting some points. I can also start picking off enemies in which that's added value to your jobs. And I think maybe even some other features as well, but I can carry that throughout the rest of the game. So that's useful to do too. But yeah, so we'll just keep doing this. And you'll notice my enemy count is back down to 10 right now when it was up towards 20 a second ago. Whenever you start a multi-ball, it does reset technically on the LCD. However, the main global enemy, I guess progress as you would call it, is still active. It's still there. So we're just going to keep grinding away here. And when I get to this spot, I just do this until I mess up. That's about the only thing to do at this point. All right, so we get out of this. And as you can tell, I don't have my ball save anymore. I'm out of Deconsecrated Multiball. And now we're going straight into an adversary. So I happen to hit Vigo. I don't think I necessarily wanted that. I was probably trying to change the Kirill, and then I just ended up hitting the shot by accident. And then, of course, we drain out immediately. So there it is. It's already over. What can you do? Vigo's already done. But again, this is just all general baseline strategy. If you start with your Ruska Roma or your Assassination job at the very beginning, you can make some good things happen. You can get some major progress in the game. All right, so now we start at Vigo. Okay, so here we go. I thought I drained out of Vigo all of a sudden. It's just lit. So with Vigo, you can hit the car and the Continental, and that'll light another shot out there. You got to complete 12 shots total, and I think that would pretty much finish it. Or you can just keep hitting the Blood Oath targets over and over and over again till it lights your left scoop or the administration shot to exit. It's not a high scoring. I don't hate it, but if I was going purely for score, which you always should be, of course, if you're playing launch party, you want to win, it would be Krill or Zero would be the ones I would pick. Zero is especially good just because you can hit a ramp and then immediately put the ball into the VUC on the right-hand side, the crate VUC, and that'll give you 3 million points just by doing that. And it's relatively safe as well, and you just keep doing that for 200 seconds until you just drain pretty much. Or unless you happen to want to exit the mode. So as you can tell, these adversary battles do last a long time as of right now. I still have approximately 145 seconds right now as I drain immediately. And as you can see, the points is what it is. It's not really that high just because, one, the way I played it, but two, the particular adversary battle as well. But once I get to this point now, I'm kind of in my mid game now. And right now, I'm completely going to sell out for getting to the Marquis de Gramont. I need to make some more progress towards that crate on the right-hand side. So you're going to find I'm going to go right back to the strategy of trying to light my outlane ball save. Because I did an adversary, I have the ability to relight that again. And that's the only way you can have the ability to relight it. Is you have to play an adversary. You don't have to beat an adversary. You just have to start it. So we see all the ricochets. And this is another important part too. Always make sure when you get a ball in the flipper, after you hit that crate, just to check up on everything. Because a lot of ricochets happen, and sometimes you'll make progress somewhere on that car or even on the Continental, and you don't even realize what progress has been made. So always check in on that. And always make sure also that if you're going to play your second job, try to get it on Marquis de Gramont, especially if you've already played Ruska Roma. But those are the two I focus in on, those two jobs right there. All right, so once I'm into this point, I'm just ramping out. I pick the ramps and I just go. I think during the launch party I played at here, I ended up just relying on the right and left ramps. And honestly, if you dial in and you don't miss and you're highly accurate, the points just go burr. It is insane. I've had modes on here that were worth over 250 million. But again, you got to hit the shots though. That's the caveat. You got to be accurate. And that's why it's especially deadly if you can do this as your third job, because again, it already starts at 80 seconds, plus you get the benefit of added seconds on, so you can play something like this for a long time. So right now, because I hit so many targets out there, or those 3 stand-ups that we talked about earlier by the left ramp and right ramp, I think I cleared them 3 times. That's light or lit my multi-ball that can be found at the dance floor right there. So I went ahead and locked a ball there just because I wanted to add it in and see what would happen in this instance. But also too, if this was ball 3, I wouldn't be doing this. I would keep it in single ball play and just keep focusing on ramps. But since I'm in ball 3, I don't want to leave anything on the table. I want to make sure, try to pile up as many points as I can. And I knew I had about 30 seconds worth of single ball play to go in order to build things up and in order to keep playing my job that I was already in. So that's my reasoning for that. And you'll find as soon as more balls come out there, it does get a little bit more difficult to deal with. But again, you could do the Congo strategy. If you could get under control, you could keep ramping out and micro flip. However, because I have the ball save on, I'm still just riding lightning and I'm just going. Just all gas, no brakes, which typically that's just my strategy when I know I have a ball save. So your mileage may vary, but I know for me, if I get into a multi-ball and I had the ball save on, the number one thing I'm prioritizing is getting my add a ball ready to go, because oftentimes that's going to be a dangerous shot to begin with. So I like to get that primed up a little bit and at least get myself close enough to get my add a ball or even light it, which I did right here. So we end the mode. We ended up with 60 million, which is decent. I mean, it's not fantastic, but for a lot of launch parties, I think I would be happy getting 60 million, because I had another launch party I played in which I got like 500,000, because apparently the post and draining straight down the middle does not give you many points. That's okay. All right, so I think I let that ball go. If I remember right, my line of thinking was I want to go back to an adversary, but I miscalculated with where I was at exactly. So again, very important. Always be aware of where you're at so you don't make these many mistakes right here, because it can be brutal if you do make these types of mistakes. And if you need the points as well. All right, so ball's feeding back to the right-hand side. I haven't talked about it much with the Baba Yaga in-lane and out-lane inserts for this particular video. Right now, I don't really pay much attention to it. I tend to spell Baba over Yaga just because I get my +1 bonus X. But if I did Yaga, I'd get 1,000,000 points right now. And I'm sure that will change in the future because the Yaga portion of it will have to do with a shot multiplier at some point. That's just not currently coded into the game, though. All right, so we started a multi-ball right there, car multi-ball. And probably what I should have done right there was go ahead and start a job and then go into the multi-ball. But that's neither here nor there. At least we could start it and you guys can kind of see it, kind of see how this works. Just jam out some red shots, collect some enemies, get you some add-balls. You know, the normal stuff. Normal stuff. But you know, when it comes to a brand new pinball machine and it comes to launch parties, oftentimes don't drown yourself with complexity. All right, keep it very simple. Keep very, very focused on specific modes that you know that you can handle, and keep it very specific on particular multi-balls that you know you can handle. And then you can kind of grow from there. You can make it as complex as you want to, but for me, I think it's important to very much simplify strategies early on. So we accidentally got into Cassian here. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And with this one, you're hitting blue shots, in which will increase the jackpot value for the purple shots, and switches also do the same thing. Again, if you hit the Blood Oath targets on the left-hand side enough, that will light administration shot for an exit, which happens to be lit right now. You can see that red dome light flashing. Everything's going nuts over there. So as soon as I hit that, I would be out of this adversary battle. All right, see what I aim for. Collecting jackpots. And there is, I think if I remember right, there's some type of 2x scoring that's happened on here too. I remember specifically seeing myself hit a shot, which was a purple shot. And I noticed even though the jackpot, it might have even happened right there. I just remember seeing the jackpot show a little over 1,000,000, but it happened to give me double the value. And I'm not quite sure how that happened exactly. I'd have to really review back over it. All right, so we're out of that adversary battle. And now we have a job lit on the right-hand side, which looks like it's going to be the Bowery. And one thing, if you've been watching this closely, you probably noticed sometimes I get a phantom hit on that crate. Now, I've found this to be true across multiple copies of the premium, that sometimes that crate comes down so quick that it automatically gives you a hit. So again, be aware of that just in case that happens for you. All right, so we're in the Bowery. You can get points out of this. However, this isn't my favorite mode. Everything's lit. And unless something's changed, with all major shots lit, you have to hit every single shot out there twice in order to get to your exit. And that doesn't even include if there's an enemy in front. So it's a very much chop a lot of wood here. I would take a multi-ball into this, and that's a mistake I made earlier. I wish I had car multi-ball along with this. Could make a little bit more progress, but that's all right. I think pretty much, hopefully, with this video, everybody out there, you've seen the general idea of how I personally would recommend approaching this pin. Again, this could change moving forward. This just is as of the current code, which I think could be at 0.84 as we do a half ramp right there, right down the middle. But this is just a strategy that I would recommend overall. Stick with Ruska Roma, stick with the Marquis de Gramont. Play those two modes. Be sure and bash the crate a little bit to get your added time up. Make absolutely sure, without shadow of a doubt, to get your left targets hit as well. Your Blood Oath targets to get your outlane ball save going. All of that's super important. All right, got it? Makes sense. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I will answer them as soon as I can. Other than that, I hope you guys absolutely destroy it. Best of luck this weekend at your launch parties. And until next time, I'll see you guys on the next one. Mm-hmm.